No. No. I'm not letting you rent that. You can rent the Drownsman because he should have got a franchise.
Yeah, it's $1.
Come on. I don't have all day. Beat it. Fucking amateur. Oh. Hello, internet fans. And welcome to 3B Video. I'm your host, Rotten Roger DeMarco. And today, we're going to be talking about Chad Archibald's 2014 film, The Drownsman. Yeah, super underrated flick. Here is your plot synopsis. The Drownsman is a serial killer who, you guessed it, drowns his victims until one of his victims fights back and stabs him in a bathtub where he evaporates and they never find the body. Yeah. And then our lead character, Madison, she almost drowns when she hits her head and falls into a lake, and she has a vision of the Drownsman coming for her. And she manages to be rescued and saved, so then she spends a whole year petrified of water. She won't get in bathtubs, she won't go out in the rain, all this shit. And all of her friends are getting fucking tired of it. So they force her to face her fears, / they have a seance. It's very weird. And that makes the Drownsman come after them all. The plot is that sounds a lot longer. I made that sound a lot longer than it is. Drownsman's a serial killer who gets killed in water. Then he disappears. So now he's like a weird specter who can travel through water. And he comes after this girl and all of her fucking friends. There you go. There it is. But before we get into my overall thoughts of the film, first, let's take a look at
Ryan Rogers!
Splatter Facts. We have 5 dead bodies. I'm not counting the times that the killer dies because I'm counting the times that the killer kills. We have 0 titties. It's a movie about people who are afraid of water. There's showers and baths and things like that, and we still don't get any titties? Come on now. We have 1 water haunting web search, 1 intervention complete with seance, 1 washing machine portal, 1 old wise harbinger, puddle pulling, it's hard to say, gratuitous water shenanigans, bitch slapping, passive-aggressive catfights, 1 drippy demon, and 3rd act plot exposition. The methods of death include and are limited to off-screen and drowned. It's a killer who drowns people. It's not like he's gonna chainsaw them. Okay, so now on to my overall thoughts of The Drownsman. Guys, you know how normally I champion these films that are direct-to-video, mid-2000s, early 2000s slasher films that just kind of come and go and don't get any recognition. Well, this is like the second wave. This is the wave after the death of video stores. So you're not renting this. They're just banking on you seeing it at the store and picking it up, which is why it has fucking awesome cover art. The cover art is killer. But I have to start this off really by saying that this is better than average. When it comes to films like that, not much hasn't been done. We've left no stone unturned when it comes to slashers. We have every single holiday. We have every single type of mask that you possibly could have for a villain, from fucking alligator masks to Groucho Marx masks. We've seen it all. Killers who use very specific means to destroy their victims. Freddy Krueger with his dreams, the Sleep Stalker with the sand, all of these things. And the Drownsman is no different, but he's a cut above the rest. He's a little bit better than he had any right to be. Because I think that this film takes all of those existing elements that make slasher films successful, and it tries just enough new to make it different, to make it stand out. And when you have a franchise villain, there are the check marks that you have to tick off. He has to be a cool looking villain. He has to have his very own set of rules / mythos to him. He has to have a very unique way to murder his victims, and he has to have a backstory that ties him to the core group of victims. And this movie has all of those things. And this movie is another one of the horror films that plays a lot with that Nightmare on Elm Street formula, much like Pennywise in It is very Elm Street. Because every time that the Drownsman appears, it feels very dream-like. It's not very clear on whether it is a dream sequence, but he does pull them into sort of this altered reality, like an otherworldly realm, his lair. And this movie does explore the lead character, Madison. It explores her phobia of water very well, and how to everyone around her it seems like a very irrational fear because they're not the ones living with it. They tell her she's crazy and treat her like a fool for having this phobia because they don't know what it's like. And it's their fault that the movie gets pushed into this slasher realm. And there are some pretty exciting sequences in this film, even if the film itself is very paint by the numbers. You have this lead character and her friends being hunted and systematically bumped off by the Drownsman. It plays just like any other slasher film you would expect. A lot of chasing, a lot of catching people one by one and taking them out until there's only a small handful left to fight the good fight. And there are some very solid practical effects when the practical effects are used, because again, this is not a gory film. You're not gonna watch this movie and get grossed out. It is not that type of film. There's not buckets of blood, there's not nudity, there's not viscera and chainsaws and all of these wild things. There's a very like emaciated, sunken, gross looking villain who obviously is waterlogged and he's covered in like moss and slime, and he's awesome looking. And that is basically the extent of the practical effects in this film, is the creature design for the Drownsman. And you know, I have to be honest, I have to say that he looks like $1 million. He looks better than most of these average slasher villains that we get. What I'm getting at is that the Drownsman definitely stands apart from these other killers, mainly on look alone, but he has such a cool backstory that it makes me want more. The methods of death are primarily blood-free. There is not a crazy amount of gore in this film, but it does not make the death sequences any less enjoyable because it plays into his theme of how he dispatches his victims. And I don't know that a movie can really make like drowning 5 people exciting, but this one does the best job it can with that method of death, if that makes sense. And another thing that I noticed about this film that I think is a little funny is that there really is no presence of any men in the film. Not that that bothers me, but I thought that it was strange because I feel like having those significant others be present in the film at least allows you a chance to bump up the numbers. You know, we have 5 dead bodies. We could have had 10 dead bodies if you just bring in significant others. That's just me thinking like a slasher fan. I want more bodies, bring them in. And I always thought that that was a little strange that we didn't utilize more cannon fodder in this film. This movie is trying to do something a little bit different, and this movie is trying to give you a slow burn, give you atmosphere, and give you an intense villain. But sometimes I want that intense villain to kill a lot more people. So in my personal opinion, this movie is 100% popcorn as fuck, because this is a movie that you watch with your buddies and you have fun with, and you just laugh at some of the choices that are being made, you enjoy the villain, you enjoy the ridiculous back and forth catty dialogue with the ladies, and you just have fun. This is a silly movie that is a little bit better than it had any right to be, and I really wish it would have gotten a franchise. I just wish that some of these littler movies got a chance. And with the death of the video store, it's hard for these movies to recoup all the money that they put into the movie because it's not getting rented. It's getting purchased once, it's getting seen, and it's getting pawned off or, given away or just forgotten about. And without the video store, with a constant influx of new people seeing the movie and saying, ooh, and taking that home, whether it made a giant impact on them or not, that $2-3 goes a long way back into the production of another film. And I just wish that we got the Drownsman Part 2. Why not? And this is close to being a good gateway film for younger kids because there's no blood, there's no nudity, but I will say, I'm gonna offer a disclaimer, the Drownsman himself, that dude is pretty scary. So younger kids might end up having an issue with taking a bath or getting in a lake or swimming if they see this. So use your own discretion, but I think that this is a good one for a kid. If your kid can handle Freddy Krueger, I think maybe your kid can handle the Drownsman. But all around, this is a decent horror film that deserves some eyes on it. So if I have swayed you to check out the Drownsman, click the link in the description and get a copy for you today. But I suppose I should probably get going because Cobra's on. And I gotta wait for Evil. I'm just hanging out. I don't really have much going on unless you want to come rent the Drownsman.